April 11, 2023 agenda session. We will now have our invocation and pledge. If you would all rise. Dear God, we thank you for this day, for this is the day that you have made, and truly we will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you, God, for the opportunity to come and serve the citizens of Cumberland County. We thank you, God, for the staff that you've given us. We thank you, God, for our citizens here that we so humbly serve. Pray, God, that you give us wisdom and guidance in all the things that we do. I pray, God, that we will be good stewards over the people's money, God, and everything that has been charged to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Manager Greer, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam Chairwoman, there are no changes to the agenda.
If I can get a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved twice and second twice. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Motion approved. Okay, well, we'll move on to our presentations. I will call on Manager Gritter to introduce the item and the presenter, please.
First, for the first presentation we have is for FAMPO, the FAMPO Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Hank Graham, the Executive Director of FAMPO, will be presenting this information.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Chair, we have Himmel Shaw. She is a transportation planning engineer with NCDOT. She will be actually presenting the actual plan itself for you this evening. Hopefully, if you have any questions at all, either she and or I will attempt to answer those questions. And at the end, we would need an approval or an adoption or recommendation to have it added to the consent agenda item for adoption on the 17th. This plan is a requirement of updating every 4 to 5 years, and is our comprehensive transportation plan along with the unurban or rural portions of Cumberland County, Harnett County, portions of the RPO, Mid-Carolina RPO, and that's why it's labeled FAMPO and Cumberland County Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Himmel Shaw with NCDOT Transportation Planning Division. Just pulling up my presentation. So today I will be talking about the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. This is a Comprehensive Transportation Plan, as Hank mentioned. We are doing in cooperation with the Mid-Carolina RPO. So this plan covers the whole Cumberland County, portion of Harnett County, portion of Hope County, and portion of Roxon County that is part of Fayetteville area MPO. I will be talking about CTP. So what is CTP? CTP is a Comprehensive Transportation Plan. This is fiscally unconstrained plan, so we are not talking about money. In this plan, we are just identifying the need for the area. This is a long-range planning document that helps local municipalities to make transportation decisions for next 25-30 years. So this is a long-range plan, and it is a multimodal plan, meaning it provides project recommendations for roadways, bicycle, pedestrian, bus, transit, and rail. And it provides better integration for the transportation planning and land use planning. And when I'm saying land use planning, these are the land use plan and the transportation plan that was done in the past that we referenced while developing the comprehensive transportation plan. So we work with the Cumberland County Planning Department to go over the land use plan for the various areas, and we also consulted Fayetteville area MPO to look their metropolitan transportation plan. And this is a long list of local bicycle and pedestrian plans that has been developed in the past. We reference this and we try to fold them in our project recommendations. This is the first map that shows the facility types for the roads in the area. The facility types are categorized in a freeway, boulevard, major thoroughfare, multi-lane, major thoroughfare, 2 lanes, and minor thoroughfare. So this map shows the proposed road in the proposed classification of the road. Highway recommendations map. So this map shows the different project recommendations for highway mode. So the project recommendations are categorized in congestion and mobility project, or the modernization project, or the access management or operation, or the other that includes the economic development. It also includes the interchange and the bridge intersection projects. So to conclude this, we have about 94 highway project recommendations in this plan and about 26 interchange, rail crossing, or the intersection improvement projects. And all the projects has a list, and the link is listed here. If you click that, it will pull up all the project recommendation, and it is posted on our website for last 3 to 4 months so public can review it. The next mode is the public transportation and a rail map. Here we show the fixed bus route, the active or inactive rail corridor, and we talked to FAST and pulled in their existing bus route and their proposed bus routes. We also talked to HARTS, the Harnett Area Regional Transit, and pull up their project recommendation that shows in the green. And we showed a couple of the park and ride lots in the future recommendation. And this is the project list. The next and last mode is the bicycle and pedestrian map. This map shows the bicycle recommendation, pedestrian, that is the sidewalk recommendations. It also includes bike and ped together recommendation, that is the on-road recommendations, and also the multi-use path. So for this plan, we have about 71 bike recommendations, 79 sidewalk recommendations. Bicycle and pedestrian together is a 7 project recommendation, and about 118 are the multi-use path. And this is the example, again, all the project recommendations, live link is posted here, so you can link and it will pull up. And also, this is the final report that is in a draft form that is posted on our website, and I think it was included in your agenda packet. The next step, we are going to all the municipalities within the RPO for their adoption, and everyone has adopted in RPO. Fayetteville area MPO has adopted it, and Mid Carolina has endorsed the plan. The next step is left is the adoption by Cumberland County, and then it goes to NCDOT Board of Transportation, and the plan becomes finalized. And I'll take any questions if you have.
Are there any questions? There are no questions. And if I can get a motion, if there's a motion on the floor.
Madam Chair, and I will let you know that I am chairman of FAMPO, but I've talked to the county manager because it's what'd you say?
The county has a constituent jurisdiction of this, and it's not a conflict.
Okay. So I would, I requested the approval of the plan and place this item on the consent agenda for the April 17th meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
We'll move on now to the consideration of agenda items.
Item 3A is the fiscal year 2023 contract for professional auditing services, and Vicki Evans, Finance Director, will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Stewart and Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
So I'm just going to do a couple of refresher items. So we did conduct an RFP for contracted audit services last year after Elliott Davis withdrew from conducting audits in North Carolina counties. Terry Beckert was awarded the audit based on experience and qualifications, not lowest cost. And we know that auditors throughout the state are experiencing difficulties and struggles in retaining and hiring new staff. So in turn, for the fiscal year 2023 audit contract, Terry Beckert has increased their audit costs to offset their additional cost. In the past, the audit contract has consisted of a fee for the audit and an additional fee for report writing. This year, finance staff are going to be completing a project involving report writing software so that we can write our own report. And so in the contract at $20,000. So in total, the fiscal year 23 audit portion totals $115,500, which is 5% above the amount they proposed in fiscal year 23. The report writing portion of $20,000 was removed, and $5,000 for consulting in case we need some questions answered regarding the report writing, that was added in. So in total, the Cherry Beckert proposed $130,000 for the county's audit for fiscal year 23, but the contracted amount totals $120,500. The TDA's audit, the contracted amount totals $7,250. And so requesting that the audit contract and engagement be moved forward as a consent agenda item at the meeting on April 17th and be approved.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Adams?
I just got one. So that TDA, they pay that?
The TDA fund pays for their own audit, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, if I can get a motion.
I move that we approve the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
And be placed on the consent agenda?
And place it on the consent agenda.
All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Moved and properly second.
For item 3B, we have a request to amend the FY23 Community Transportation Program bid award to include EdTap services for Chapman Management Company. Hank Graham, Executive Director of FAMPO will be presenting this one also.
I didn't laugh, Hank. I was over here looking for
It's
it.
like, where was I? All right. Madam Chair and Commissioners, FAMPO is requesting, we found out that after the bid tab was approved by the board last April for the Community Transportation Program, this particular grant funding source was left off of the bid award for Chapman Management Company. We do have a need to have them added and have the bid award amended. It's around $50,000 that was kind of put in limbo or hangs in limbo until this bid award or bid tab is amended. We will be able to expend the remaining funds before the end of the fiscal year, and staff is asking for this amendment. Yes, sir.
Oh, no.
Are there any questions? Okay, if I can get a motion.
I approve the bid tab for Chapman Management Company for the EDA, for the ETAP for 2023 and move it to the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
We will now move on.
Hold a minute. They got something?
I think the request was
due to timing at the end of the fiscal year, so it could approve it at
Can-
this meeting, if that's possible.
Can we do that?
Is that what it is?
The meeting will be Monday.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
it is Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday.
Okay, we'll now move on to 3C, intent to lease real property. Manager Greer, if you would introduce the item in
She
the.
walked in just in time.
The intent to lease real property at 9221 Giles Road for solid waste container site. Amanda Beta, where manager of natural resources will be presented.
Yes, so we have leased the Jernigan site for many years, and we'd like to continue to provide service to this area using the existing facility.
Are there any questions? No questions? Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd recommend that we approve the container site, move it to the April 17, 2023 consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 3D, the interlocal MOU with New Hanover County. Manager Greer.
Yes, Brenda Jackson, interim social services director, will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
We determine eligibility for the Work First program. The Work First program is an employment program and a temporary financial assistance to families who need that type of assistance. It also provides some support services around domestic violence and substance abuse assessments. We've had about 90% turnover in our Work First unit. That staff makes up a total of 13 employees, including a supervisor and a lead worker. We have diligently hired for those positions, but they're very new. Takes about a year for an eligibility worker to become experienced in doing that work. They authorize large sums of money and benefits, and so it's very important that it's done accurately and correctly. And so we are grateful that New Hanover County has agreed as a partner county to help us with training. They will provide 13 weeks of virtual training for a cost of $3,929.50. And we're asking this item be considered for your April 17th consent agenda.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
A motion to approve the interlocal agreement between Cumberland County and New Hanover for the DSS training for the consent agenda, and move it to the consent agenda for the April 17th meeting, and to let Senator McGinnis know that we're doing some regional collaboration, because he always talks about that, Mr. Manager.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you, and we
Thank you,
thank
Ms.
New
Jackson.
Hanover County for helping us.
We now move on to item 3E, American Rescue Plan Committee recommendation. Manager Greer.
Yes, Ty Vaught, Chief of Staff, will be presenting this item. The ARC Committee met on April 4th last week and made some recommendations, and he will go through those recommendations today.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
As Manager Greer said, the ARC Committee met last Tuesday on April 4th, and there's quite a few recommendations that were made by the committee. I will not belabor the board today with every recommendation, but those recommendations are a revision to the current nonprofit policy that it governs the program, funding recommendations to fund nonprofits in the amount of $1,119,919, funding for an emergency shelter project, funding for an AED pad program, a up to amount of funding for the Norcrest Water District, $150,000 for library hotspots, $1.5 million for a child care facility, and it's also a recommendation for the Robbins Meadow project funding.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Adams.
Yes, I'll just tell the other two commissioners, y'all were there, that it was thoroughly looked at by the ARP committee, and was unanimously approved to go through all of these I think staff did an excellent job in their presentation. So I will make a recommendation that we approve these recommendations and move it to the consent agenda for April 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. We will move on to item 3H. Manager Greer.
Yes, this is a contract for County Tax Services, Inc. with, for tax auditing services. Joe Utley, Tax Administrator, will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. This afternoon, the subject of my presentation is a reference of a contract with County Tax Services for tax auditing. In the general statutes, it specifically states it shall be the duty of the assessor to see that all property not properly listed during the record listing period be listed, assessed, and taxed. Currently, there are about 9,000 businesses who file annual business personal property returns and 980 businesses that file gross receipt returns. To ensure the businesses are listing properly, Tax Administration has developed a compliance verification program. We've done this with an outside vendor, which is currently County Tax Services, and that contract ends on June 30th. Of course, in compliance with our county purchasing policy, a request for proposals was issued. The general statutes does allow the Board of Commissioners to hire firms to assist the assessor in his or her duties, which has been standard practice for our compliance program. The North Carolina Department of Revenue does maintain a list of qualified firms that can assist the assessor, and currently there are 5 firms on the list for auditing services. Of those 5 firms, 3 did respond to our RFP, and we had an additional one that responded that was not on the list from the Department of Revenue. We did a thorough review of the submitted proposals, and we ranked them per a scoring grid, which was attached today. There were 4 submissions, and County Tax Services did score the highest. As Tax Administrator, I'm recommending that the following action be forwarded for approval as a consented item to the April 17th Board of Commissioners meeting. The action is to approve a contract with County Tax Services to conduct auditing services for Cumberland County in support of business listing and gross receipts compliance program.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Fairclough?
Madam Chair, I would move that we would move this item to the consent agenda on April 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. We will now move on
Thank you.
to item 3G, and we're going to do both items G and H at this time.
Yes, Amanda Bader, General Manager for Natural Resources, will be presenting this one. And I'll go ahead and say she'll present G, H, I, and J.
Which ones now?
The next 4.
The next 4.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. The next 2 items are for equipment replacement for Wilkes Road and Ann Street landfill. We applied through the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grants program. That's a grant program administered by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for EPA, and we have 2 well-loved pieces of equipment that do not meet current diesel emission standards. We'll be scheduling them for replacement, and we will be budgeting the match funds in next year's budget. The grants were for 25% of the replacement cost.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Just one question. Why, and I just saw on here, to destroy the engine,
Because the point of the grant is to replace these tier 1 through tier 3 engines with new tier 4 engines.
Because of the emissions and
Because
stuff?
of the emissions,
I got
and we
you.
got the grant because we demonstrated
Right.
the
Got you.
tons of NOx reduction.
Thank you.
Okay. And that's for G and H, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and then the next items.
Let me do this. Let me
Oh,
deal with-
sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Let me deal with these. If I can get a motion for items 3G and H.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Item 3I is a resolution for the funding assistance for the proposed future Cedar Creek Water and Sewer District.
Okay, so this is for the proposed future Cedar Creek Water District. We are proposing to put a grant application forward through the Drinking Water Infrastructure Program for the development of water supply for the future Cedar Creek Water District. This would include groundwater wells construction and water treatment for those wells.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a quick question. What's the maximum grant available there? The maximum dollar amount?
So I believe the maximum, for grants, I do not know for grants for the upcoming round, but we will apply for a grant in the order of $20 to $25 million, the total application process. Now, we will come back to the board if we are successful in getting this funding to discuss the distribution of grant versus loan funds.
Any other questions? Commissioner
turn?
Council.
Yes.
Commissioner Council.
I move that we approve the contract with, as written.
And move it to the April 17th.
And it does.
Move it to the April 17th.
April 17th meeting,
I'll second it.
It's been
and
moved.
put on the consent agenda.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Okay.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, now we move on to item 3J, manager. Well,
Yeah.
Amanda, she's
Yes.
there, that's fine.
Okay, so this one is for the Grace Creek District. We were successful in getting funding at the last funding round through the Drinking Water Infrastructure Program. Now we are looking at revising the scope of that original project to include groundwater supply wells and distribution lines in accordance with their framework for parcels that have been impacted by Gen X contamination. As we look at that revised scope, we are projecting a deficit of $8.4 million, and we'll be requesting funding for that deficit in the next funding round.
Are there
The
any
next
questions?
what? What was the end?
The next funding round.
Oh, okay.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, I would move that we would move this resolution to the April 17th consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. We will now move, thank you. We will now move on to item 3K, the NCDOT request for permanent utility easement.
Yes, Rick Moorfield, County Attorney, will present this and turn it over to Rick.
I can quickly tell you that this is the Hope Mills branch of the library. If you stand on Rockfish Road and look at the front of the building, what DOT is asking us to give them, if we don't, they're going to take it anyway. But it's about a 34 by 34 foot parallelogram on the extreme right-hand corner on which they're going to put a power pole and a guy wire. And then the extent of the entire front of the property for about 30 feet in depth, they're going to regrade it. They widen the road, and there has to be regrading done for drainage and stuff. Although they say that's a temporary construction easement, it's really a permanent regrading. There are two light pole fixtures for the library at the ends of the property, and they have agreed not to disturb those. They are paying $7,200 for the permanent easement, which was derived from an appraisal, and I recommend that the board approve the grant. of the easement.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we grant the easement and authorize with the $7,200 to be signed by the chair. I want my $7,200.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to item 3L, Construction Manager at Risk Recommendation for the Crown Events Center. Mr.
Yes.
Manager Greer.
Yeah, yes. Last week, the Crown Event Center Committee met and made a recommendation for construction manager at risk. Jermaine Walker, Director of Engineering and Infrastructure, will go through the recommendation made by the committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walker.
Good afternoon.
Sir.
As the manager stated, this was presented to the Crown Event Center Committee on last week on the 4th. This solicitation opened on January 4th, closed on February 10th after receiving 5 high-quality responses. They were evaluated.
It's only 4.
We received 5.
Oh, you got 5.
One was disqualified. Well, I wouldn't say disqualified, they were non-selected.
Okay, but they weren't qualified.
To
They
move
were
to
$5.
excuse me, in case they are listening, excuse me. They were qualified, they just were not selected to move to the short list. 4 were shortlisted, and then after conducting 2 days of in-person interviews, the joint venture of TA Loving and Metcon was selected as the recommended CMAR to the Crown Event Center Committee, and the Crown Event Center Committee decided to move that to the full board as a recommendation as the construction manager at risk. Some of the evaluation criteria, consistency from pre-construction through construction, relevant project experience of the team members, approach to construction in an urban site, which we have, schedule management, approach to local participation and MWBE participation, and quality control. And so our recommendation is that TA Loving, Metcon, who are 2 local North Carolina firms, TA Loving being the oldest North Carolina firm out of Goldsboro, Metcon out of Robinson County. It's a 60-40 joint venture, and they have over $300+ million in experience as a joint venture. And so our recommendation is that they be accepted as the construction manager at risk, and this be moved forward to the April 17th meeting, and that we would be allowed to go into negotiations for pre-construction services.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the construction manager at risk recommendation for the Crown Event Center to be moved to the consent agenda on April 17th.
I'll second it, but I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Adams.
thank you. 'Cause you say you're gonna go into negotiation with them, which means it comes back, I'm just trying to figure out, if the negotiations doesn't pair out right, then what happens? We back to ground zero, or we go to number 2, or what?
We go to number 2, yes, sir.
So, my thing would have been, why wouldn't we have tried to do those negotiations once well, I guess you gotta select them first, I guess is what you gotta do. Okay. All right.
So it's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll move on to other items of business. Are there any items of business, Manager Greer?
No, Chairwoman.
Okay, we'll move on to our monthly reports, and we have all seen our reports.
Yes, ma'am.
We have all read our reports, our monthly reports, and so, are there any questions anybody has over the monthly reports?
Ms. Evans.
No,
No.
thank you. We do not have any questions, so at this time, I will make a motion to go into closed session.
I'd make a motion pursuant to NCGS 143, 318, 11A.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
She said entertain the motion.
Motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Meeting adjourned.